Greetings Aces, and welcome to my emulation guide for the PS2 trilogy of Ace Combat. With the recent developments in PCSX2 emulation, particularly with the latest nightly builds of the software, I have been wanting to make this proper guide for a while now. I already did, actually, but I aim to make the process a bit more streamlined with this video. To be clear, this is not meant to be a full, from-scratch PCSX2 setup tutorial, or where to get BIOS files and ROMs, etc. If you can use the search bar on your browser, then you'll surely find all you need. There are others who have already covered that process much better, like the two gentlemen, Igor L. and Your Casual Gamer down here. Their videos are in the description below if you want to follow their guides. This video is simply a quick and easy to follow guide to get the 3 games configured and ready to play with the best recommended settings on the latest nightly versions of the emulator. This guide also comes in written form and it's in the description below if you want to check it out as well. So, let's get right to it. First, make sure that Show Advanced Settings is enabled in the Tools tab, and once that's done, we move on to the important part of the configuring procedure, the games. Let's start with the first game on our list, Ace Combat 4 Shattered Skies. As of nightly version 2.3.187 of the emulator, the ghosting effect on the game's bloomy and foggy missions is now fixed thanks to new settings being implemented. Those missions can now look much better when rendering at internal resolutions higher than 3x native 1080p. Right-click on the game, on the list or the cover, and select Properties to begin configuring. Emulation. VSync on. Patches, widescreen 16:9 enabled. No interlacing enabled. Graphics, renderer Belkan. Display, aspect ratio, widescreen 16:9. Anti-blur on. Rendering, internal resolution 3x native 1080p, but 4x or 6x are good if your system can handle it. Anisotropic filtering 16x. Blending accuracy, basic recommended, or it can be set to high for truer hanger light reflections. Mip-mapping on. Manual hardware renderer fixes on. Hardware fixes, CPU sprite render size 1. Upscaling fixes. Now the first two are the keys to fixing the fog and bloom's ghosting effect. Half pixel offset align to native with texture offset. Native scaling, normal. Round sprite, full. Texture offsets X and Y, 0. Align sprite on, merge sprite on. Post-processing, FXAA on. Advanced, enable game fixes on. Enable game compatibility patches on. Now this last step is important. When you start playing the game and creating a save file for the first time, go into Options, Screen Settings, and Screen Ratio, and set it to 16:9 to allow the game to display correctly with the widescreen patches enabled. And mission accomplished! Ace Combat 4 is configured and ready to play. AC4 still suffers from a few emulation artifacts, but these are very minor and should not hinder your overall experience of the game. Our next and last 2 games on the list are Ace Combat 5, The Unsung War, and Ace Combat 0, The Belkan War. Both games share the same engine, so for example, the properties you configure for AC5, you can go and apply the same to AC0 and both will work fine. Once again, right-click on the games, on the lists or the covers, and select Properties to begin configuring. Emulation, VSync on. Patches, widescreen 16:9 enabled. No interlacing enabled. Graphics, renderer Belkan. Display, aspect ratio, widescreen 16:9. Anti-blur on. Rendering, internal resolution 3x native 1080p. But once again, if your system can handle higher resolutions, you can increase to your liking. Texture filtering, bilinear forced excluding sprite. Anisotropic filtering 16x. Blending accuracy, basic recommended, but it can be increased for truer hanger light reflections. Mip-mapping on. Post-processing, FXAA on. Advanced, enable game fixes on. Enable compatibility patches on. Last but not least, the important step. When playing and creating save files on the 2 games for the first time, go into their options, the screen and display settings, and set the screen ratio to 16:9 for the widescreen patches to work correctly. And that's done. Ace Combat 5 and Zero are configured and ready to play. Now that your games are all set up and prepared, I'd like to cover a small bonus section regarding texture replacements. This is not required to start playing the games on the emulator, but it will drastically help improve the visuals. ModDB has numerous custom aircraft skins for you to play with, as well as templates for you to make your own skins. I'm not going to cover it here in this video, but in the description below, there's the docs file on this video, and in that file I include a link to a detailed tutorial by Death the Dog, which offers great info on making custom liveries and textures for all 3 games and activating them in the emulator. One visual pack I can truly recommend is the Ace Combat Trilogy HUD upgrade by Super Ostrich. It drastically improves the visuals by integrating HD HUD elements in your gameplay. The end result looks fantastic, especially when rendering at higher resolutions like Full HD, 2K, or 4K. The link to this pack, as well as other texture links of interest, are all in the docs file in the description below. In conclusion, the state of emulation for these classic games is at an all-time high, and things will only continue to improve as emulation develops even further. A significant lot of the info in this guide is thanks to the help of Tuga Avenger, Justin Els, Positron Cannon, and Death the Dog, among many others who have helped keep track of developments to help guide the emulation community in improving the means of playing these games on modern hardware. And of course, it's all thanks to the PCSX2 devs that such a way to still enjoy them is even possible, both for old fans and new ones just discovering this series. All of you have our utmost gratitude. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope this guide has helped you revisit these classics, and if not, to experience them for the first time.